singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds.
Moments like these are the ones musicals thrive on. The moments that allow us as the audience to connect to the story through the music. Music being a medium that transcends cultures and generations. Musicals have no equal in the way that they inspire us and make us feel a part of the world of the show. And for this, no one does it better than Gene Kelly. Gene Kelly being one of, if not the best, choreographer and performer in Hollywood history. His talent as both a choreographer and filmmaker was able to give us moments through song and dance that we can wrap ourselves up in, and that are instantly recognizable. And while I'm sure you all know this scene,
Singing in the rain.
it's the Broadway melody sequence that really shows us the power of movement and dance that Kelly was able to bring to his films. Broadway melody exists within the mind of Don Lockwood, Gene Kelly's character in Singing in the Rain. Don begins explaining the Broadway melody sequence to his producer, taking us into an almost dreamlike state. Within this imagining, the set is colorfully painted with noticeable rough brushstrokes, which gives an animated look to the world around Don Lockwood. The set feels reminiscent of set pieces you might see in a live theater performance, which is where this sequence takes heavy inspiration. The entire sequence and presentation uses something called time-space manipulation to integrate the audience into the choreography. Maya Deren wrote a section about what she calls time-space manipulation in her paper, Cinematography, the Creative Use of Reality. Deren explains that we notice the movement of a figure in the frame by changing its position in relation to the frame itself. The way Gene Kelly achieves this is by using the formal movement of the camera to assist in the movement of the subject in the frame. One example of this is in Singing in the Rain, during the beginning of the Broadway melody sequence. Gene Kelly's character runs along a conveyor belt with the world and other dancers moving around him. Synchronizing Gene Kelly's movements with that of the frame, it gives the shot a sense of fluidity. This sense of fluidity allows us as the audience to view the space as if we were a dancer in the film, copying the choreography through the movement of the camera. We as the audience move through the space following the choreography step by step. We aren't only watching the choreography from the outside, but rather following it as it happens. By following the choreography and the dancers move through the space, we can feel more integrated into the film's music and movement, keeping us engaged throughout. This concept of time-space manipulation to integrate the audience into dance also appears in another Gene Kelly musical, An American in Paris, which was released the year prior to Singing in the Rain in 1951. Towards the end of the film, Gene Kelly's character, Jerry Mulligan, stares off into the streets of Paris, leading us into his imagination, taking us into an abstract 17-minute dance sequence that takes place in a painted version of Paris. Jerry Mulligan, being a painter, has his imagination depict Paris with sketched out backgrounds and rough color blocking. Throughout this sequence, the camera doesn't follow the choreography in the same way it does in Singing in the Rain, but instead takes us through the space as the dancers move around the camera. The center location of the scene is the central fountain in the middle of the area. The camera's movements also follow the concept of time-space manipulation that Deren describes. Here, by focusing on taking the time to move the camera carefully around the fountain, it extends the space of the fountain to the audience. We can see the choreography and the dancers move and flow around us as we explore the space around the fountain, almost as if we were there. We can feel connected to the space and the choreography by being able to get wrapped up in the world the musical has created, both through the music and the space it inhabits. Musicals have a tendency to wrap us in their world through a variety of forms. Singing in the Rain and An American in Paris are both examples on how using movement through space can integrate the audience into the performance. Film as a medium enhances the musical by allowing the audience to move through the space instead of viewing it from only a single angle. These dream sequences are only one prime example of this. They mimic the look of a live theater performance with their painted set pieces and grand musical numbers. It allows the film to embrace the world of fantasy that musicals bring by making the world itself a part of the fantasy. Singing in the Rain uses the camera to follow the choreography, focusing on a single subject, usually being Gene Kelly. By focusing on Gene Kelly, he guides us through the story and the world as if we were dancing with him. An American in Paris takes a different approach into incorporating the audience into the choreography by moving us through the space and allowing us to take on a greater sense of movement overall, by taking us into different dimensions of the space as dancers move around the camera instead of just in front. Both films rely on camera movement to narrate the space to the audience, being highly choreographed in the way that the camera moves. Ever since I was a kid, I've always felt a sense of wonder and magic from watching musicals, the way that they can express the full depth of emotions we might feel without the need of worrying about what might happen. Characters sing and dance to their heart's content. They exist in a world of fantasy, a world a lot brighter and more romanticized than our own. We as audience members can feel wrapped up in the world of musicals to be able to feel like we could stand up and sing ourselves. And for this, Gene Kelly's musicals truly find a way to let us feel like we're a part of the show, by using the camera to highlight what makes musicals special and allowing us to be led onto the stage instead of being in the seats. And no matter how many times I watch these films, I always feel like I too can be a part of these moments.
That's the